That's awesome. That's a hack. Everyone, that's a hack. Remember that.
I didn't just wake up and say, hey, I want to be cool enough to tell someone I bought a house in Japan. That's kind of not how it worked. I had a reason why, a pretty good reason. I'd lie if I say I wasn't nervous at some of these steps. We asked for a solution. It worked.
What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to my channel. And today I am in Yamato in Kanagawa Prefecture, and I'm here to meet with an American investor who's in the military around here, who purchased a property, a beautiful property in this area recently. So technically he's not a Japanese resident, but he was able to purchase a property without any, well, I wouldn't say any problem, but I'm gonna ask him how the process went and any tips he might have for people like himself. All right, let's go meet him. All right, everyone, so this is Jason. He is the owner of the house that we just got to, and he's gonna give us a quick walkthrough of his new place.
Let's go.
All right, so he just drove me to his house from nearest station. Is this it?
This is it.
Right. Ta-da! Wow, nice. So it comes with car parking. Yeah, how's?
Yeah, if it rains,
trying to
snows.
park in here. Yeah, if it rains, if it snows, your car is protected. That's awesome.
Let's go inside.
Okay, so it's a two-story house.
Two-story house.
Yeah, and then
88 square meters.
Okay,
So
so
I'll give you a tour. But I just moved in, and my house is a mess, and there are boxes everywhere. So we're gonna roll the B footage.
he's gonna actually give me a tour, so you get to hear it. But what you're gonna see is the B-roll footage of before he moved in.
One of my favorite parts of the house is the entrance.
Yeah.
It's very big. I love the shoebox. I like how
Nice,
there's
yeah.
a lot of storage. Even the step up also has a lot of space. Not sure what I'm gonna do with it yet. Moving into the dining room / living room area.
Yeah.
My favorite,
wow.
my favorite part is the living room,
Nice.
mainly because of this large window
Yeah.
with the garden that is right outside the window. It looks like 8 feet by 3 feet. I don't know what I'm gonna do with that either. I'm probably gonna leave that up to my wife. A lot of windows in this space. There's
Nice.
windows everywhere, so there's sunlight everywhere.
Ooh, I love the dining room.
The dining room is nice. I've honestly never had a place with these kind of lights, the track lights, but
Yeah.
the track lights
These are cool.
are one of my favorite parts too. The kitchen's all brand new. The shelving, the stove, the hood, the fan, the sink, all new.
And then the bathroom.
The bathroom area, the whole shower room is all brand new.
Oh, I love it.
Walling, tub,
A large window.
still enough space for a washer dryer combo.
Yeah.
In the toilet room,
Oh, look at that toilet.
brand new toilet, gotta have the bidet. New flooring in there. Yeah, everything's new, and that's part of why I really love it. And I didn't have to spend any extra money, no hidden fees. Coming up the stairs, there's actually a light strip. It's glow in the dark, so even at night, if you don't want to turn the light on to lose your sleepiness, you got glow in the dark strips.
Oh, look at this tatami room.
The tatami room. I'm okay with one tatami room per house. That's kind of how I feel. But I like having one because it's like the chill out meditation vibes.
Yeah. Do you actually meditate here?
I sit up here. I do whatever
This is perfect for
My
like
form
yoga,
of
meditation, stretching.
Yes.
Nice. I love it.
And I'm in Japan, so I need a Japanese feeling room, and I got one. This one is going to be the bedroom. It's got the biggest closet space, so that's where we're going to store clothes.
Nice.
Again, 2 windows, lots of sunlight, above 6 tatami. I think it's 6.2. I can't remember.
And this room, wow, it's got a lot of light coming in from the windows.
Right. I actually like I don't know what you call this window, but it's a double window, so we're going to fill it with either plants, cactus. I don't know yet. Let the imagination run wild. But out this window, you see the sunset going through the mountains,
Yeah.
and it lights up the sky orange and purple.
Oh, that's so beautiful. The view that you see. Do you get to see Mount Fuji from here?
I cannot. I cannot. It's just behind the mountain. I can see. I know.
It's still pretty beautiful though.
Absolutely. With the
Nice.
accent wall.
Awesome. Well, Jason, thanks for the walkthrough.
Thank you. I appreciate everything you've done for me.
Oh, thank you. Okay, so Jason, thanks for having me today. Thanks for the walkthrough. This is such a beautiful house.
Thank you.
And you just moved in, right?
Correct.
About a month ago, so.
Yes.
And how are you settling in this house?
I ended up liking it more and more since I've moved in.
Yeah?
To be honest. Yeah. I was a little nervous at first. I might have regret, but no regrets.
Yeah. What were you nervous about before moving in?
It was between two houses, and it was a struggle to pick which one was better. And I chose this one, and I was afraid I might have made a mistake, but the more I stay here, the more I feel confident it was the right one.
Specifically, what do you love about this house?
The fact it came fully renovated, new water heater, new stove, new wallpaper, new stairs, new flooring, everything. I didn't have to renovate anything.
Yeah. And what's your favorite room so far?
The living room.
The living room.
For sure. It's got the nice garden right outside the window.
Yeah, such a nice living room. I like this room too though. Like the new tatami mats. I don't know, maybe it's the perfect place to meditate or
That's
do
exactly
yoga.
what I'm using for.
And so you appeared in one of my earlier episodes. You know, we talked to you, I think that day right after we walked through, you know, this place and a couple others. For the newer audience who haven't seen that video or who don't know you, could you share a little bit about yourself? Where are you from and what brought you to Japan?
I'm from the United States. Rhode Island, grew up in Rhode Island until I was 21. I was a line cook and I didn't want to do that anymore, so I joined the military. The military bounced me around America for a little bit, and then in 2012, they sent me to Japan for 8 months. I had zero idea about anything about Japan except for anime, and I'm not even into anime, but I fell in love with the people, the culture, the food. It was just very different. You worry about different things when you leave your house from America, Japan. Everything was new, so it was a honeymoon phase. But then I took a job, still in the military, in Japan, spent 4 years, still in love, stayed up until 2020. Went away for 2 years, came back to Japan recently in the last 4 months, and here we are, and then bought a house.
So we've known each other for, I think, nearly like half a year or maybe like 4 or 5 months. And we started working together. And then you knew you wanted to buy a house, right? Even before you came here.
Yes.
But initially you decided on renting, obviously, because it would be hard to move here and buy a house like at the same time. And buying a house takes a little bit of time until you move in. But even before that, like what was your thought process of, I'm going to buy a house in Japan, as opposed to like, I'll rent for a little bit and maybe I'll buy a house in the future. How did you decide that you wanted to buy a house here?
What made it easy was the future of what I'm going to do when I get out of the military. I knew I wanted to live in Japan. I knew I wanted to go to school in Japan after I get out. As of right now, plans change, but I want to live here in Japan for a really long time. So that made it easy. Also, the yen rate going to 151 helped push my decision a little bit too. So that's the highest it's been in 30 years. Those two factors, yeah.
I do have a lot of American audience members, but for those who are not from there, who don't know where you're from, like Rhode Island, and I think previously you were in San Diego, California.
Correct.
Can you do some like comparisons of some of the differences between living there and living here in Japan in terms of the cost of living?
Cost of living. San Diego, when I was there, I think gas hit $7 a gallon. When I was in Rhode Island, it didn't get that high. It got between $3 and $4.
Okay.
But so I'll stick with San Diego because that was ridiculous. If you go out and eat with somebody, share a meal, it's probably $30 each plus tip. And it's like $80 at the end of the day between two people.
So like $40 per person. And you're talking like
easy, very easy
like
in San Diego.
Yeah.
Very easy. Here, if you can go out, we could pay the bill in under $40 for each other. And that's just food, but it spills over into everything. Everything is more distance in San Diego, so you gotta pay more gas. You need more car. The public transportation is not as efficient. So you save a lot of money in little ways throughout the day just by being in Japan versus San Diego.
And it's not just like around here, it's like pretty much everywhere, right? I feel like even in Tokyo, you can find cheap places to eat. I live in Yokohama, second largest city, and I feel like it's quite cheap compared to a lot of places in the U.S.
And that's actually a good point. You can go to the biggest city in Japan, and it doesn't even compare to San Diego. That's crazy.
What about housing? Both like renting and also purchasing a house.
I myself don't own any property in America, but I know a lot of people who do. To get a decent house in San Diego, it seems like it's $700,000 and up, pretty easy. Here, at least this house is around $150,000, so easily almost 4 times in San Diego. I think in Rhode Island it's like 400,000 to have a decent house. I haven't been there in a while. It's been a long time, but I'd say those are the three price points of like low to middle income family.
Just that entry to just home ownership, right? Sounds like it's extremely difficult, especially in California or other, very expensive markets in the US. Nowadays, almost impossible to own a house as a young person or a young couple, just starting out. So you're almost forced to rent for a very long time. But here, the interest rate, if you have access to loans, it's super, super low. So the money is cheap, but the price point itself is a lot lower. So
I forgot all about the loan rate too.
Right. Yeah.
I think when I left 6 months ago, it was going down from like 7% to 6%.
Yeah.
And then last time I looked in Japan, it was still under 1%. So that's a big deal too, especially if you're paying 30 years.
Yeah, I talked to a lot of people from the U.S. investors, like weighing options to invest here or California. A lot of them are from California. I mean, it's a great market because it's an appreciating market. If you can afford it, like maybe 10, 20 years, it's going to be like $1.5 million or maybe $2 million if you buy it for $700,000. But also to get there, you have to go through this like probably a painful years of high mortgage payments, high taxes. You're probably not going to cash flow even though you rent it out, So you're basically bleeding, out of your pocket every month, hoping that you're going to get that appreciation equity built up in the future. And, if that's your game, I think that's great. But here, you might not be able to expect that kind of appreciation, but you can get a house outright cash with the kind of down payment that you would pay for a house in California, right?
Agree.
Yeah, and then there's no mortgage payment. Taxes are super low. Yeah, like you just outright own it, and you can get something like this beautiful house.
Yeah. And like I said, if you plan on living here, it's a good way to do it. If you're trying to buy a house here and flip it, it doesn't seem like a good idea. But yes, if you're in San Diego and you own a house, it seems like the best decision for me would be to hold on to it because it just doesn't work the same way as Japan and America. You don't hold on to them as long as you do in America. Okay,
so you're in the military,
correct?
Right? And that's okay to say on the camera. Okay, just making sure. And I didn't know this until recently, until I started working with you. But even though you're physically in Japan, you're technically not a resident of Japan, right? Because on the base, it's part of the United States. So how did the purchase process work? Can you walk us through what it was like to get through that as a non-resident who's actually here, who's like technically living in Japan?
I saw a lot of confused faces on a lot of people who've been in the business in Japan for a long time. But it's interesting because like I don't know what they're really thinking, but none of them really showed too much like frustration about it. So I don't know if they really were or if they just hit it really well. But they all seemed to like help me figure it out, like honestly. And if there was a decision between the real estate agent and the lawyer and the bank, if you have to get all four to agree, including myself and all those people, to agree that this is how we're going to do it since I don't have the correct paperwork. Because there's usually a list. You get the Jumin, he'll get this paper. If I'm not allowed to get those papers, what do we use in its place? And to get all those people on the same page, it involved a lot of discussion, patience, and hopefully everyone accepts it. And that seemed like at every step of the way, even down to on the bank statement, do I write my name in Romaji or do I write it in katakana? And even that's a 15-minute discussion. Actually, a lot of extra time, patience, and a lot of let's figure it out on the go. It felt like that's what it felt like.
So one of the things that I talk about, and I've discussed this multiple times in different episodes, but if you're not a resident in Japan and trying to purchase a property, you need affidavit notarized, right? Because you don't have a Juminhyo, which is a registry that proves that you're a resident of Japan. And did you have to do that, get affidavit, even though you're physically here?
Right. Yeah. I had to get an affidavit because technically I don't live here, even though I live here. And that is very, very difficult, I think, for any regular person to understand. Yeah. There's technically don't live here.
Right.
And I'm here for 3 years.
So which address did you have to use?
I used my Rhode Island address
Okay.
because that's the address on my license.
Right.
Yeah.
And then were you able to get that document notarized on the base?
Yes,
Okay.
that's how we went about it. Since I'm not there, we go with whatever house I claim back in America for tax purposes, yes.
And you're able to open up a bank account, right? Even though you're
was.
technically not a resident.
Correct.
Yeah. How did you pull that off?
So a lot of the stuff too was me doing my homework, so I'll give myself credit there. I started off on Reddit, which obviously isn't the best source of information. So you read 10 things and maybe 2 or 3 of them are true.
Yeah.
I saw one, it looked like he had the most trustworthy one. He said he went to the bank and there was a lot of running back and forth, and it took him 3 hours. I was just talking to my friend and we're like, hey, should we go to the local one or the headquarters? And it came down to the local one's gonna have 2 employees. So, and the headquarters is probably gonna have about 20 employees. I think 20 heads are better than 1, because if one person doesn't know, they'll ask the next one. And so we went down to the headquarters, and it kind of worked out just like the Reddit guy said. I don't remember his screen name, but there was a lot of back and forth. We get to a spot, we're stuck. They run back. They come back 10 minutes later. We get to another spot, we're stuck, and I'm trying to convince them, hey, does this paper work? And then I go in my bag, hey, does this paper work? They're like, no, and that's how it worked. Until how do we get to yes? Is all the conversations. How do we get to yes?
So what was the logic behind it? Because as a non-resident, you know, my understanding is it's almost impossible to open up a bank account. Because you're like technically non-resident,
That's
right?
all I heard up until I did it.
Okay. Can you walk us through the exact steps that you took to open up a bank account? So you have an account with Bank of Yokohama, right?
I do.
Which is a semi-major bank around here. And then you went to the headquarters, which is a smart move. But which documents did you bring and how did you convince them to give you a bank account?
I brought my passport. I brought my military orders to prove how long I was going to be in Japan. They were very interested in that.
Right.
I brought my driver's license. And I was renting at the time. So I already had proof that I was renting in Japan.
Okay. And that was outside of the base, right?
Correct, outside of the base.
Got it. So basically you're living, you know, you could prove that you're living in Japan to like the
correct
the regular people in Japan, because they probably wouldn't know.
Correct.
Right.
So,
as long as they see a Japanese address on your lease.
So I think we brought a water bill and a gas bill. So it had a name and a stamp from 7-Eleven saying you paid.
Okay.
So I believe that was it. But some of the questions also caused just for them to go back and like ask their boss for like 20 minutes on, is this okay? Is this okay? So a lot of it was, is this okay? Because they would ask for something and we'd be like, I'm not allowed to get that.
Yeah, I think this is an exception, right? Because if you're not a resident, you basically cannot open a bank account. I've never heard of any other cases actually. Because if you're on the tourist visa, how are you going to prove how long you're going to stay? Because the longest period you could stay is up to 90 days at a time, right? And you wouldn't have a gas bill or electricity bill as a tourist. So I think that basically proves that you don't have a Jumikyo, but you live in Japan.
Right. And I didn't have the hanko either, the stamp. Everyone wanted a stamp everywhere I go, but I don't have a stamp.
Does every military person, U.S. military person, have a bank account in Japan? Who, like your colleagues, or do they usually? Or
as far as I know, I think I'm the only one that I know.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. So that's a hack if you're watching, if you're on the military, because you don't really need to, right? Because you could basically do pretty much everything.
Right, you get the bill in the mail,
yeah.
you go to 7-Eleven, you'll be fine. The reason I got the bank account was I was trying not to be like an annoying foreigner while I was buying the house, and I wanted the process, which is already complicated for me, whatever was in my control to make it less complicated. So if we could send the money from my bank account straight to them like a normal house purchase in Japan, and just try and somewhat normalize the process instead of use WiseApp and send 1 million at a time, 1 million yen at a time, 20 times or however many times.
Yeah, that's what some of our clients actually do. Yeah, especially
it works.
It does work, and then it takes a little bit of convincing the seller, because some sellers are like super old school and they don't want to try anything new, and they're like, oh, like that sounds kind of sketchy. What is Wise? Like, you know, what is Revolut? Like, I've never heard of that bank before, but it actually works. And it's, yeah, we've done that a few times now. But yeah, you're right. It takes a lot of work, you know. It's like 1 million again. Okay, that was the 20th time. Here we go. As opposed to just a one time.
Right. And if the app crashes halfway through, what do you do? Or the seller's confused and the buyer's confused.
So that's the bank account, right? So you set it up. I feel like you were so prepared to purchase this. And the process went, from my perspective, you went very smoothly, only because you were so prepared. You know, you knew exactly what you wanted, and you had, you know, you've done your homework. You had a bank account. You know, you already knew what you wanted, right?
Correct.
Can you? So you mentioned, you know, it was between this one and another property, but can you go back a little bit of identifying like what you really wanted? Like, what were your criteria of your dream house, and how did you narrow down to a list of few properties?
Personally, I want to be within 10 minutes of a train station. I know the prices go up the closer you get, but I just really want, I don't know, my selfish reason. That's one of them. The price of the house depended on how much renovation would be needed. So I was willing to go lower if I had to put more money in. But why not move in right away and pay a little extra for a house ready, which is this one. I was also busy with work a lot, so I wasn't gonna have time to do any renovations. So for me, my personal choice was buy one fully renovated.
Yeah.
If I had to compare the two I was thinking about, this one's a little bigger, and each room is 6 tatami or bigger. The other one had 2 rooms that were smaller than 6, which isn't a problem. If it wasn't a problem, big problem, but it's a little bit difference for this one to like climb up higher on my list of things to do. Also, this one has the little garden outside my window. It's like a 6 foot by 3 foot garden, but small enough where I'm not going to be taxed in the summer trying to take care of it. Yeah, those are the little differences, I think.
Are you talking about is that the blue house?
The blue house.
Okay,
yeah.
the blue house. Yeah. That was a nice one too. Yeah.
It was. That one was also near a school, so my wife works from home. So if the kids are making all the noise throughout the day and she's having like a conference call and they're yelling, it might come through on her audio. So we took that into account too. Yeah, I'm sure we could have soundproofed a window at some point, but the little things you don't have to spend money on right away.
Yeah. What if the pillar wasn't there on the
in
first
the
floor?
kitchen?
Would that have impacted?
I would have solved that. I would have solved it. I would have made a shelving. I would have. That's not a problem.
Okay.
A big column right in the middle. She just didn't like it.
That day we looked at how many properties. Was that like 4? I think we tried 4. For 5, and we ended up looking at 4.
Correct.
Yeah, I think we saw this one. This was like second to last, I think, or maybe the last one. But yeah, I think I could tell just by looking at both of you, like, oh, it's probably this one. Or maybe, you know, the second one, the blue house. And I remember we had Indian, you know, we recapped everything, you know, like, okay, what do you want to do? And then, you know, we worked out some things that were noticeable that you wanted to fix, right? And then we kind of quickly calculated how much it could have cost to get that fixed, and made an offer, just kind of subtracting that number. And
correct.
Since we're talking about this property, can we, are you okay, you know, going through some numbers?
Yeah,
you talked about purchase price,
sure.
But, you know, what was the asking price? How did you negotiate it? And what was the purchase price? Is that okay to share?
Good.
Do you remember what the asking price was, original price?
Technically $21,970,000, but we'll call it $22 million.
Yeah, 22.
You can call it $22 million.
22, okay. And how did you negotiate it?
I took you and Colin's class, so when we walk through, you don't show them you're too excited about the things you're excited about, and you don't point out something that you don't like and say, hey, I don't like that. You kind of say, you ask a question about it, and it leads the real estate agent to say, oh, he might not like that part about it. The real estate agent was very, very interested on my thoughts right away, and I didn't want to give them to him, to be honest. That's why I waited till we got the Indian food, because I didn't want to let him know how excited I was. So we saw some things we knew we might have to spend money on, and we let them know that. We said, hey, this kind of isn't working for us. Is there any way you could subtract it from the house? That way when I do the renovation part, or when I change what I want, it factors in and it equals out to the same price as the house was at the time. And that's what we did. Yeah, it was pretty simple.
What was the purchase price then?
We knocked 1,000,000 yen off, so it went from 22 million to 21 million yen, which
So,
is
yeah.
about $7,000 roughly,
Yeah.
with a 150 yen rate.
So yeah, I think that was beautifully done, and thanks for taking the course and giving a shout out, good student. But yeah, I think a lot of people try to just ask for like a lower price for the sake of lowballing, and
Right.
that usually doesn't work because there's no logic behind it, and that can be considered quite rude, especially if you haven't really looked at the property. But if you have specific reasons why you're asking for a lower price, typically the seller will likely listen, and they'll probably they know what needs to be done usually, right? And it's usually harder for a fully renovated place because they spend a lot of money to fix this up, and usually if it's done by a company, there's nothing to
Correct.
to point out, right?
There's pros and cons, I think, the company doing it. It's good that it comes with a warranty.
Yeah. How many years is the warranty?
I already forgot. There's so many warranties I'm keeping track of right now.
I think it's 2 years, right, for this one.
I'll be honest, I can't remember.
Yeah. It's either 2 or 5. I think it's 2.
I have a stack of aircon warranties, stove warranties, this warranty, and they're all different.
Yeah.
I thought I was gonna like buying from a person at first because I can negotiate more down. But because the company did renovate it, and even though they don't go down as much on the price, you get what you pay for, I guess. In the end, pay now or pay later.
Yeah.
So I'd rather just pay now. So there's no surprises. You could budget around something that's coming. Yeah. That's why I felt more comfortable.
Yeah, I love that renovated properties in Japan usually come with warranty. It's usually 2 years, but I've also seen a 5-year warranty as well. So I mean, that shows that they're willing to do the work right out even after 2 years. Where in the U.S., I feel like it's like, well, if you buy it, like there's no warranty. Like if you don't negotiate it, if you close on this, like it's yours. You can't complain after at all. Yeah, I think that's a huge pro for sure. The asking was 22. You got it down to 21.
Correct.
And how did you finance it?
So
Bank of Jason.
Bank of Jason. I'm 37 years old with no kids, so that helps. Everyone's situation is different.
Yeah.
I don't think everyone should just show up and buy a house if it doesn't make sense to them.
Yeah.
Like kids cost money, so I didn't. So I had time to save. I had time to save all the way up until I was 37. Yeah, it was just sitting there. I mean, I invested it and I've kind of pulled it out of like mutual funds and certificates of deposit. But yeah, when the yen rate hit 151, I just jumped because the Bank of Japan was talking about raising their rates eventually. It's the one time I probably timed something right.
So you have no mortgage payments.
Correct.
You own this. You own this
Forever.
place forever. Outright. Awesome. And what are your plans with? You were talking about like you're thinking about the future. About do you have plans about this property or Japanese real estate in general?
So I don't plan on becoming like a real estate Mongol and becoming a super millionaire off properties.
Really?
Yeah, for sure, for sure. I don't want the stress. After I retire, I'm gonna go to school here for 3 years. But after that, I can't just stay here. Even though I own this house, I can't just stay here because I want to. I need a visa. So even if I purchase 1 or 2 more properties and rent them out, and just throw it under an LLC and get the business visa. If I just use it as an excuse to get a business visa and stay in Japan, I'm just keeping that as an option. Because I don't want to go be a salaryman in Japan for sure, especially if I'll be like 48 by the time that happens. But I plan on buying a couple properties to have in the back pocket of getting a business visa.
That's awesome.
Because I have no other way to stay.
Yeah. I mean, that's what I would do too. And there are a couple other people who are trying to do that as well. And I'm working with them. And for you, I think it's like a much easier shot. You already are here. You're here. You own the property already. You have a bank account. Huge advantage. So really, all you need is a few more, rental properties down the road. And I think it'll be a pretty straight shot at getting a business manager visa.
I like to keep options open, so like nothing's set in stone.
Yeah, good to have options.
Yeah. I'm not going to try and buy 50 houses.
Yeah.
If it happened, it happened, but that's not my goal. I like to keep my goals open too.
Yeah. I'll come back in like a few years and see where you're at. Like, oh, I have 12 now. All right, so we talked about your goals in Japan, potentially becoming a real estate mogul, building an empire. Maybe. keeping an option open. But yeah, let's go back one step and talk about your expenses for this house, right? Because a lot of people ask, like, well, what's the property tax like? You know, what do you have to pay? Like, you know, are there any hidden costs? So, you know, you've owned this place for a couple months now. So what are some expenses that you're having to own this place?
Property tax, which I believe, I can't remember the exact number. It was because my house is 37 years old. It's past like the 30-year kind of fade out of depreciation. It was around $280 to $340 for the entire year. For 1 year. Yeah.
So it's like a 40,000 yen or something like that.
Yeah, roughly
right?
that. Roughly that.
That sounds about right.
The most expensive part was probably the air conditioners, to be honest. I didn't know how expensive they were. Again, the yen rate was so good. I feel like I got a good deal. I had to put 3 air conditioners. I think on top of the house price was another roughly 1.2 million, which seemed in line with all the Googling I've could have done. So I don't just believe one website when I read it. So I try to get like 4 websites, and it was between 800,000 and 1.5 million.
Yeah.
And I felt like right in the middle. So I felt like that was normal.
So that includes the closing costs, right? So you got to pay the judicial scrivener who handles all the title change and all that stuff. Broker fee, right? Property tax, koteshi sanze. What else? Are you including the insurance as well?
I got 5-year insurance. I believe it was around 300,000 yen. Okay. So that's around a little over 2,000.
Yeah, $2,000 for 5 years.
For 5 years,
right?
yeah. So less than 500 a year.
Well, that's awesome, because I think that's how much a lot of people pay in California in 1 year or something.
And that's the highest level it was, because the last thing I want to do is get into a legal battle in Japan, not knowing the language. And then, so I wanted to cover everything. If I catch the neighbor's house on fire, it's covered.
Yeah, those costs, especially if you get it for 5 years. Could be a lot initially, but you don't have to worry about it for 5 years, which is awesome.
Sure.
I think it's pretty affordable, and it's cool that there's a 5-year plan. Property tax you got to pay annually, but for insurance.
Are you familiar with the website? Is it Kaku, or
which for?
It's like it compares. You could punch in your numbers for your house, and it'll compare insurance across.
Oh, really?
It does it for like refrigerators either.
Really?
It does it for electronics. It compares prices across.
Oh, that's cool. Kaku. Are there any surprises in terms of like expenses for owning home ownership? Like, I didn't know I had to pay for this, and it's kind of a lot. Or not really?
Honestly,
aside from ACs.
I think the aircon was the biggest one, to be honest. I also did my aircon on sale. So you can go to the Biku camera and you can go to Yodobashi, and if you're gonna buy stuff in bulk, you can talk them down. They give you a price sheet.
Seriously? You can do that?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Reddit, thank you again. So Reddit was good again. They give you a price sheet. They write the full price on it, but then they come back and give you like a unofficial price. They're like, hey, if you group these together, we'll knock off this much. I'm not a good negotiator, so usually I just show up and I say, hey, Biku camera, how much can you take off? Just so you know, I'm going to go to Yodobashi in the next hour.
That's good.
Yeah, so like, I just want you to know I'm going to bounce back and forth. Because I don't want to hassle, and I don't even know if that's the Japanese way. I don't know enough, but I know truth, and I'm just going to tell them, hey, I'm going to go there after you. Just keep that in mind. So I got they take like 25 to 30% off if you buy 3 air conditioners. So
that's awesome. That's a hack. Yeah.
That's a good way.
Everyone, that's a hack. Remember that.
I did go with someone who could speak Japanese though.
Yeah.
I didn't try and do this myself.
I mean, if you're buying a house, I guess you have to get your own appliances. But even if you're renting, you have to have, you got to bring everything with you.
I read a lot of complaints on Reddit about that.
Yeah, it's quite a bit. As a landlord, it's kind of nice because you're providing the space and that's it. But as a renter and homeowner, you have to buy everything or bring from your old place. So that's what's different about living in Japan. Okay, so thanks for sharing those numbers.
No worries.
And for the audience who want to do what you did or what you're doing, right? What advice do you have for them to successfully purchase property in Japan?
Do your 100 hours of homework. Yeah, I didn't just wake up and say, hey, I want to be cool enough to tell someone I bought a house in Japan. That's kind of not how it worked. I had a reason why, a pretty good reason. Yeah, I searched every website I could. That's how it led to you and Colin. And then I watched all the videos. There's literally so much free information. don't believe every word of it, but when you start to see the same things over and over and more credible sources start to repeat it. And then once I had the ability to come here and experience it in real life to see if it really worked. Like you read on Reddit, hey, if you bundle it, you can save a percentage. So I'm like, hey, let's go to the store and find out if it's true. And you find out if it's true. So a lot of legwork, a lot of time, do your homework, have a good reason why. Yeah, I'd lie if I say I wasn't nervous at some of these steps, because I knew it wasn't the actual process. It's going to be a little change here, a little change here. Do they agree with this? But I was never super nervous. I was just nervous about if one person didn't want to go along with it, like the bank doesn't agree about the transfer, or the real estate agent just can't do it without a Juminhyo, I'd be out of luck. But I don't know, I just had faith in the system. Everything worked out in the end. Like, I didn't get worked up when there was a problem. If there was a problem, we asked for a solution and it worked.
Yeah, just I think you're someone who makes very informed but also quick decision. And I think that led to getting this property. If you waited, there might have been other offers. I think they would have been, but I think you saw it at the right time. You made an offer at the right time, and also, I think you negotiated and made an offer that you wanted, and now you're the owner of this beautiful property. So
awesome.
Yeah, congratulations. And thanks again for your time and for the tour of the house.
Anytime.
And yeah, look forward to coming back when you have maybe like 5-10 more properties in like a couple of years.
I gotta leave some for you.
Well, this is Jason. Thanks for watching, and make sure to check out this video next for more. I'll see you in the next one.